Welcome to this explainer. Having way too many customers is usually a problem you want, right? I mean, it's a manufacturer's absolute dream scenario. But for Airbus right now, it's actually their biggest headache. Airlines are literally lining up, begging for more A320 family aircraft than the company can possibly deliver. It's a fascinating paradox. And hey, if you've noticed higher ticket prices or older planes on your recent flights, this exact bottleneck is a huge reason why. Let's unpack exactly why having record-breaking demand is causing so much turbulence on the factory floor. So let's dive right into the central mystery. Can Airbus actually build these planes fast enough? Airlines desperately want the A320 family. It's the absolute backbone of short and medium-haul commercial aviation all around the globe. The demand is just off the charts. But turning that enormous, hungry demand into actual jets sitting on the runway ready for passengers, that is a monumental challenge. The core reality we really need to understand right from the get-go is this. Airbus doesn't have a demand problem. It has an execution problem. You see, building a commercial aircraft isn't like making a smartphone. If a tech company wants to double their output, they might just, add an extra shift at the assembly plant. Boom, done. But an A320, that requires thousands of highly specialized components sourced from this crazy, complex global network of suppliers. You simply cannot just flip a switch and build more. Which brings us to their massive goal, chasing rate 75. Airbus is actively pushing production to a staggering 70 to 75 aircraft per month by the end of 2027. The ultimate goal is to stabilize right at that rate 75 mark. To put that into perspective, Airbus themselves have described rate 75 as the highest production level in the entire history of civil aerospace. We're talking about rolling roughly 2.5 highly complex commercial jets out the factory doors every single day. That is a massive amount of metal to manufacture month in and month out. But here's a critical detail you can't miss. This historic target isn't just for one specific plane. It's for the entire A320 family. That includes the A319neo, the standard A320neo, the A321neo, and the long-range A321XLR. The production system has to seamlessly handle all of these different variants on the exact same assembly lines. And the A321neo is playing an increasingly critical role in Airbus's product mix right now, which honestly just adds a whole extra layer of complexity to the entire assembly process. To make this historic rate even remotely possible, Airbus inaugurated a massive new A320 family final assembly line in Toulouse, France, back in June 2026. The total site is about 50 hectares. To put that into a visual, that's roughly the size of 70 soccer fields. Just the central assembly hangar alone is 490 meters long, 250 meters wide, and 46 meters high. This isn't just a simple factory expansion. No, it's an enormous industrial bet designed specifically to accommodate this exact backlog for decades to come. Okay, so they have the massive factory space, but what is the actual reality on the ground today? Let's do a rapid-fire look at the latest data. In July 2026, Airbus delivered exactly 67 commercial aircraft. When we take that July figure, it brings their 2026 year-to-date total up to 418 deliveries. So that's 418 planes successfully completed and handed over to airlines in the first 7 months of the year. It sounds like a lot of progress, doesn't it? Well, maybe not, because when you compare that to their full-year target of roughly 870 commercial deliveries in 2026, you can really see the incredibly steep mountain they have left to climb for the second half of the year. If they are only at 418 by the end of July, the entire system has to carry massive production and delivery momentum right now to even come close to hitting that final target. And that leads us to a huge hurdle, the engine bottleneck. In a complex manufacturing world, there's this concept called a pacer. Essentially, it's the single slowest critical component that dictates the speed of the entire system. Think of it like a chain, where you're only as strong as your weakest link. An aircraft factory can be perfectly ready, the workers can be standing by, the giant hangar is fully built, but without engines, the aircraft simply cannot leave the facility. And Airbus has explicitly identified Pratt Whitney engine availability as the key pacer, the major constraint on their 2026 and 2027 ramp-up. The specific engine we're talking about here, the Pratt Whitney geared turbofan, has been facing severe durability and maintenance challenges. And this isn't just slowing down the building of new planes, it's actively grounding planes that are already in service, causing really costly repairs for the airlines. So Airbus is effectively trying to accelerate one of the world's most complicated manufacturing systems, while a vital part of that very system is still struggling to recover. It's a tough spot. which poses a massive, multi-billion-dollar question for the whole industry. What happens if Airbus builds assembly capacity faster than its suppliers can actually feed it? Because an $80 million aircraft without engines is really just a ridiculously expensive paperweight sitting on the tarmac. Their industrial strategy is completely global, right? You've got final assembly in Toulouse, in Mobile, Alabama, and Tianjin, China. If this massive global supply chain gets completely out of sync, you just end up with bottlenecks, huge delays, and millions of dollars tied up in unfinished inventory. Next up, desperate airlines, aging fleets. You see, airlines are absolutely desperate for new, fuel-efficient aircraft to handle the massive post-pandemic passenger surge and to finally replace their aging fleets. Airbus delivered 67 planes in July. They've got this enormous backlog stretching years into the future, and they're ahead in year-to-date deliveries. Now, Boeing, their primary rival, is trying to increase production too, but they've spent years recovering from their own distinct set of operational and regulatory challenges. This absolutely gives Airbus a huge strategic advantage. But the true battle here isn't just about winning sales anymore. It's all about production consistency, maintaining quality, and securing the engines and components required to just keep the factories running. So let's look at the bull versus bear case. The bull case for Airbus is incredibly strong. Demand remains super powerful. The massive backlog gives Airbus years of revenue visibility, and their expanding industrial capacity means they have a crystal clear path to generating massive profits if they can successfully hit rate 75. However, the bear case is flashing some serious warning signs. Supply chain disruption, those stubborn engine availability issues, and just immense manufacturing complexity. Pushing production too fast carries huge quality risks. Airbus is attempting to synchronize an enormous global supply chain at a much higher speed, and the bears think that is quite literally just a recipe for bottlenecks. Finally, let's check out the investor scorecard. For investors, a headline order at a flashy air show means absolutely nothing until it moves down a very rigid sequence. An order must become physical production, which then triggers a delivery, which finally allows the company to book revenue and generate cold, hard cash. If you want to understand the hidden economic story of commercial aviation, remember this. A backlog is not cash. The real economic engine is moving the metal through this exact sequence without any hiccups. Going forward, you'll want to keep your eyes on 5 vital signs. Monthly A320 family production. Actual Airbus deliveries to the customer. Engine availability. Are they arriving on time? Supplier bottlenecks across the globe. And finally, the overall order backlog. These are the ultimate tests of Airbus's health. They will tell you if Airbus can actually pull off this historic, unprecedented ramp-up in manufacturing, or if they are just expanding way too fast for their suppliers to keep up. To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this provocative thought. The next phase of commercial aviation may be decided not by who sells the most aircraft, but by who can actually build them. Because if the supply chain keeps slowing the ramp, all of those massive, record-breaking orders just remain promises on paper. Execution is where aerospace companies make or lose their billions. So the next time you book a flight, ask yourself, how long did it actually take for that jet to finally make it to the runway? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.